Hello, this is Morel Benard with the continuation of the story, Wuthering Heights. How are they getting on at Wuthering Heights? Oh, darling Catherine, you mustn't go and leave after all. You must obey my father. You must. Last words that were said from Linton. So now let's proceed. And by the way, please subscribe to the channel of Study Coach UK and please share the videos. Much appreciated. Yeah, okay. I must obey my own, she replied, and relieve him from this cruel suspense. The whole night. What would he think? He'll be distressed already. I'll either break or burn away out of the house. Be quiet. You're in no danger. But if you hinder me, Linton, I love Papa better than you. The mortal terror he felt of Mr. Heathcliff's anger restored to the boy his coward's eloquence. Catherine was near distraught. Still, she persisted that she must go home, and tried entreaty in her turn. Persuaded him to subdue his selfish agony. While they were thus occupied, our jailer re-entered. Your beast have trotted off, he said. And now, Linton, snivelling again. What has she been doing to you? Come, have done, and get to bed. In a month or two, my lad, you'll be able to pay her back her present tyrannies with a vigorous hand. You're pining for pure love, are you not? Nothing else in the world, and she shall have you. There, to bed. Zillah won't be here tonight. You must undress yourself. Hush, hold your noise. Once in your own room, I'll not come near you. You needn't fear. By chance, you've managed tolerably. I'll look to the rest. He spoke these words, holding the door open for his son to pass, and the latter achieved his exit exactly as a spaniel might which suspected the person who attended on it of designing a spiteful squeeze. The lock was re-secured. Heathcliff approached the fire, where my mistress and I stood silent. Catherine looked up and instinctively raised her hand to her cheek. His neighbourhood revived a painful sensation. Anybody else would have been incapable of regarding the childish act with sternness. But he scowled at her and muttered, "Oh, you're not afraid of me. Your courage is well disguised. You seem damnable afraid." "I am afraid now," she replied, "because if I stay, Papa will be miserable. And how can I endure making him miserable when he, Mr. Heathcliff, let me go home? I promised to marry Linton. Papa would like me to, and I love him. Why should you wish to force me to do what I willingly do of myself?" "Let him dare to force you," I cried. "There's law in the land, thank God. There is, though we be in an out-of-the-way place. I'd inform if he were my own son, and it's felony without benefit of clergy." "Silence," said the ruffian. "To the devil with your clamour. I don't want you to speak, Miss Linton. I shall enjoy myself remarkably in thinking your father will be miserable. I shall not sleep for satisfaction. You could have hit on no surer way of fixing your residence under my roof for the next 24 hours than informing me that such an event would follow. As to your promise to marry Linton, I'll take care you shall keep it, for you shall not quit this place till it is fulfilled." "Send Ellen, then, to let Papa know I'm safe," exclaimed Catherine, weeping bitterly. "Or marry me now. Poor Papa, Helen. He'll think we're lost. What shall we do?" "Not he. He'll think you are tired of waiting on him and run off for a little amusement," answered Heathcliff. You cannot deny that you entered my house of your own accord in contempt of his injunctions to the contrary, and it is quite natural that you should desire amusement at your age, and that you would weary of nursing a sick man, and that man only your father. Catherine, his happiest days were over when your days began. He cursed you, I dare say, for coming into the world. I did, at least. And it would just do if he cursed you as he went out of it. I'd join him. I don't love you. How should I? Weep away as far as I can see. It will be your chief diversion hereafter, unless Linton make amends for other losses, and your provident parent appears to fancy he may. His letters of advice and consolation entertain me vastly. In his last he recommended my jewel to be careful of his, and kind to her when he got her. Careful and kind. That's paternal. But Linton requires his old stock of care and kindness for himself. Linton can play the little tyrant well. He'll undertake to torture any number of cats if their teeth be drawn and their claws pared. You'll be able to tell his uncle fine tales of his kindness when you get home again, I assure you. You're right there, I said. Explain your son's character. Show his resemblance to yourself, and then I hope Miss Cathy will think twice before she takes the cockatrice. I don't much mind speaking of his amiable qualities now, he answered, because she must either accept him or remain a prisoner, and you along with her, till your master dies. I can detain you both quite concealed here. If you doubt, encourage her to retract her word, and you'll have an opportunity of judging. I'll not retract my word, said Catherine. I'll marry him within this hour, if I may go to Thrushcross Grange afterwards. Mr. Heathcliff, you're a cruel man, but you're not a fiend, and you won't, from mere malice, destroy irrevocably all my happiness. If Papa thought I had left him on purpose, and if he died before I returned, could I bear to live? I've given over crying, but I'm going to kneel here at your knee, and I'll not get up, and I'll not take my eyes from your face till you look back at me. No, don't turn away. Do look. You'll see nothing to provoke you. I don't hate you. I'm not angry that you struck me. Have you never loved anybody in all your life, uncle? Never? Ah, you must look once. I'm so wretched. You can't help being sorry and pitying me. Keep your F's fingers off and move, or I'll kick you, cried Heathcliff, brutally repulsing her. I'd rather be hugged by a snake. How the devil can you dream of fawning on me? I detest you. He shrugged his shoulders, shook himself, indeed, as if his flesh crept with aversion, and thrust back his chair, while I got up and opened my mouth to commence a downright torrent of abuse. But I was rendered dumb in the middle of the first sentence by a threat that I should be shown into a room by myself the very next syllable I uttered. It was growing dark. We heard a sound of voices at the garden gate. Our host hurried out instantly. He had his wits about him. We had not. There was a talk of 2 or 3 minutes, and he returned alone. I thought it had been your cousin Harrington, I observed to Catherine. I wish he would arrive. Who knows but he might take our part. It was 3 servants sent to seek you from the Grange, said Heathcliff, overhearing me. You should have opened a lattice and called out. But I could swear that Chit is glad you didn't. She's glad to be obliged to stay, I'm certain. At learning the chance we had missed, we both gave vent to our grief without control. and he allowed us to wail until 9 o'clock. Then he bid us go upstairs through the kitchen to Zilla's chamber, and I whispered my companion to obey. Perhaps we might contrive to get through the window there, or into a garret, and out via the skylight. The window, however, was narrow, like those below, and the garret trap was saved from our attempts, for we were fastened in as before. We neither of us lay down. Catherine took her station by the lattice, and watched anxiously for morning, a deep sigh being the only answer I could obtain to my frequent entreaties that she would try to rest. I seated myself in a chair and rocked to and fro, passing harsh judgment on my many derelictions of duty, from which, it struck me then, all the misfortunes of my employer sprang. It was not the case, in reality, I'm afraid. I am aware, but it was, in my imagination, that dismal night, and I thought Heathcliff himself less guilty than I. At 7 o'clock he came and inquired if Miss Linton had risen. She ran to the door immediately and answered, "Yes, here then," he said, opening up and pulling her out. I rose to follow, but he turned the lock again. I demanded my release. "Be patient," he replied. "I'll send up your breakfast in a while." I thumped on the panels and rattled the latch angrily. And Catherine asked why I was still shut up. He answered, "I must try to endure it another hour." And they went away. I enjoyed it 2 or 3 hours at length. I heard a footstep, not Heathcliff's. "I brought you something to eat," said a voice. "Open the door." Complying eagerly, I beheld Harrington laden with food enough to last me all day. "Take it," he added, thrusting the tray into my hand. "Stay 1 minute," I began. "Nay," cried he, and retired, regardless of any prayers I could pour forth to detain him. And there I remained enclosed the whole day, and the whole of the next night, and another, and another. 5 nights and 4 days I remained altogether, seeing nobody but Harrington once every morning, and he was a model of jailer, surely, and dumb and deaf to every attempt at moving his sense of justice or compassion. On the 5th morning, or rather afternoon, a different step approached, lighter and shorter, and this time the person entered the room. It was Zillah, donned in a scarlet shawl, with a black silk bonnet on her head and a willow basket swung to her arm. "Hey dear, Miss Dean," she exclaimed. "Well, there is a talk about you at Gimmerton. I never thought but you were sunk in the Black Horse Marsh and Missy with you, till master told me you'd been found, and he'd lodged you here. What? And you must have got on an island, sure. And how long were you in the hole? Did master save you, Mrs. Dean? But you're not so thin. You've not been so poorly, have you?" "Your master is a true scoundrel," I replied, "but he shall answer for it. He needn't have raised that tale. It shall all be laid bare." "What do you mean?" asked Zillah. "It's not his tale. They tell that in the village about your being lost in the marsh, and I calls to Earnshaw when I come in, eh? There's queer things, Mrs. Harrington, happened since I went off. It's a sad pity of that likely young lad. And can't Nelly Dean?" He stared. I thought he had not heard naught, so I told him the rumour. The master listened, and he just smiled to himself and said, "If they have been in the marsh, they are out now, Zillah. Nelly Dean is lodged at this minute in your room, You can tell her to filth when you go up. Here's the key. The bog water got into her head, and she would have run home quite filthy, but I fixed her till she came round to her senses. You can bid her go to the Grange at once, if she be able, and carry a message from me that her young lady will follow in time to attend the squire's funeral. Mr. Edgar is not dead? I gasped. Oh, Zillah, Zillah. No, no. Sit you down, my good mistress, she replied. You're right sickly yet. He's not dead. Dr. Kennett thinks he may last another day. I met him on the road and asked. Instead of sitting down, I snatched my outdoor things and hastened below, for the way was free. On entering the house, I looked about for someone to give information of Catherine. The place was filled with sunshine, and the door stood wide open, but nobody seemed at hand. As I hesitated whether to go off at once or return and seek my mistress, a slight cough drew my attention to the hearth. Linton lay on the settle, sole tenant, sucking a stick of sugar candy and pursuing my movements with apathetic eyes. Where's Miss Catherine? I demanded sternly, supposing I could frighten him into giving intelligence by catching him thus alone. He sucked on like an innocent. Is she gone? I said. No, he replied. She's upstairs. She's not to go. We won't let her. You won't let her, little idiot, I exclaimed. Direct me to her room immediately, or I'll make you sing out sharply. Papa would make you sing out if you attempted to get there, he answered. He says I'm not to be soft with Catherine. She's my wife, and it's shameful that she should wish to leave me. He says she hates me and wants me die, that she may have my money, but she shan't have it, and she shan't go home. She never shall. She may cry and be sick as much as she pleases. He resumed his former occupation, closing his lids as if he meant to drop asleep. Master Heathcliff, I resumed, have you forgotten all Catherine's kindness to you last winter, when you affirmed you loved her, and when she brought you books and sung you songs and came many a time through wind and snow to see you? She wept to miss one evening because you would be disappointed, and you felt then that she was 100 times too good to you, and now you believe the lies your father tells, though you know he detests you both, and you join him against her. That's fine gratitude, is it not? The corner of Linton's mouth fell, and he took the sugar candy from his lips. Did she come to Wuthering Heights because she hated you? I continued. Think for yourself. As to your money, she does not even know that you will have any. And you say she's sick, and yet you leave her alone, up there in a strange house. You, who have felt what it is to be so neglected. You could pity your own sufferings, and she pitied them too. But you won't pity hers. I shed tears, Master Heathcliff. You see, an elderly woman and a servant merely, and you, after pretending such affection and having reason to worship her almost, store every tear you have for yourself and lie there quite at ease. Ah, you're a heartless, selfish boy. I can't stay with her, he answered crossly. I'll not stay by myself. She cries so I can't bear it. And she won't give over, though. I say I'll call my father. I did call him once, and he threatened to strangle her if she was not quiet. But she began again the instant he left the room, moaning and grieving all night long, though I screamed for vexation that I couldn't sleep. "Is Mr. Heathcliff out?" I inquired, perceiving that the wretched creature had no power to sympathise with his cousin's mental tortures. "He's in the court," he replied, "talking to Dr. Kenneth, who says Uncle is dying truly at last. I'm glad, for I shall be master of the Grange after him." Catherine always spoke of it as her house. "It isn't hers, it's mine. Papa says everything she has is mine. All her nice books are mine. She offered to give me them and her pretty birds and her pony Minnie if I would get the key of our room and let her out. But I told her she had nothing to give. They were all mine." And then she cried and took a little picture from her neck and said I should have that. 2 pictures in a gold case, on one side, her mother, and on the other side, Uncle, when they were young. That was yesterday. I said they were mine too, and tried to get them from her. The spiteful thing wouldn't let me. She pushed me off and hurt me. I shrieked out, that frightens her. She heard Papa coming, and she broke the hinges and divided the case and gave me her mother's portrait. The other she attempted to hide, but Papa asked what was the matter, and I explained it. He took the one I had away and ordered her to resign hers to me. She refused, and he struck her down and wrenched it off the chain and crushed it with his foot. "And were you pleased to see her struck?" I asked, having my designs and encouraging his talk. "I winked," he answered. "I wink to see my father strike a dog or a horse, he does it so hard. Yet I was glad at first. She deserved punishing for pushing me, but when Papa was gone, she made me come to the window and showed me her cheek cut on the inside against her teeth, and her mouth filling with blood. And then she gathered up the bits of the picture and went and sat down with her face to the wall, and she was never spoken to me since. And I sometimes think she can't speak for pain. I don't like to think so, but she's a naughty thing for crying continually, and she looks so pale and wild. I'm afraid of her." "And you can get the key if you choose," I said. "Yes, when I'm upstairs," he answered. "But I can't walk upstairs now." "In what apartment is it?" I asked. "Oh," he cried, "I shan't tell you where it is. It is our secret. Nobody, neither Harrington nor Zillah, is to know. There, you've tried me. Go away, go away." And he turned his face onto his arm and shut his eyes again. I considered it best to depart without seeing Mr. Heathcliff and bring a rescue for my young lady from the Grange. On reaching it, the astonishment of my fellow servants to see me and their joy also was intense. And when they heard that their little mistress was safe, 2 or 3 were about to hurry up and shout the news at Mr. Edgar's door. But I bespoke the announcement of it myself. How changed I found him, even in those few days. He lay an image of sadness and resignation awaiting his death. Very young he looked, though his actual age was 39. One would have called him 10 years younger at least. He thought of Catherine, for he murmured her name. I touched his hand and spoke. "Catherine is coming, dear master," I whispered. "She's alive and well, and will be here, I hope, tonight." I trembled at the first effects of this intelligence. He half rose up, looked eagerly round the apartment, and then sank back in a swoon. As soon as he recovered, I related our compulsory visit and detention at the Heights. I said Heathcliff forced me to go in, which was not quite true. I uttered as little as possible against Linton, nor did I describe all his father's brutal conduct. My intentions being to add no bitterness, if I could help it, to his already overflowing cup. He divined that one of his enemy's purposes was to secure the personal property as well as the estate to his son, or rather himself. Yet why he did not wait till his disease was a puzzle to my master, because ignorant how nearly he and his nephew would quit the world together. However, he felt that this will had better been altered. Instead of leaving Catherine's fortune at her own disposal, he determined to put it in the hands of trustees for her use during life and for her children, if she had any after her. By that means, it would not fall to Mr. Heathcliff should Linton die. Join me for the next episode of Wuthering Heights. Join me for the next video, please. Join me for the next video of Wuthering Heights. Look forward to seeing you then. Bye.